The deal of the century. The Galactic Trade Union prided itself on always winning. They had made countless deals with primitive species, offering them outdated ships and obsolete technology in exchange for valuable resources. It was a simple strategy. Give them junk, take gold, and move on before they realized the truth. And now, it was humanity's turn. The meeting that changed everything. Inside the Grand Trade Hall, located on the Trade Hub Station Varec 7, the most powerful merchants in the galaxy gathered. Seated at the negotiating table were representatives of the Galactic Trade Union, their reptilian and insectoid faces filled with amusement. Across from them sat Ambassador James Carter, a human. He was alone. To the aliens, this was already a sign of weakness. Ambassador, hissed Overseer Vector, a towering green-scaled merchant lord. You must understand, this is the deal of the century for your people. He gestured toward the massive view screen, where images of old, rusted alien warships floated in deep space. These vessels, while not the newest, are still functional, and more importantly, they are yours. In exchange, we ask for a simple payment. Carter folded his arms. Let me guess, you want rare metals, fuel, and food supplies. Vector grinned, revealing rows of sharp teeth. A small price, yes. Behind him, other alien traders chuckled, watching the human with amusement. This wasn't a deal. This was a joke. And humans didn't know it yet. The mighty fleet, the ships offered to humanity, were laughable by galactic standards. They were decades old, covered in rust and scorch marks from past battles. Many had no functioning weapons, their shields were non-existent, and their engines barely worked. The Galactic Trade Union had stripped them of all advanced systems before putting them up for sale. To them, this was garbage, nothing more than floating metal coffins, and they were convinced humanity was too desperate to refuse. Humanity's response. Carter leaned forward, eyes scanning the aliens before him. He knew what was happening. They were mocking Earth. They thought humans were too primitive to realize they were being cheated. They believed humanity would fail, crumble, and disappear like so many other species before them. He smiled. And then he did the one thing they never expected. We accept. The room fell silent. Vector's expression froze. The other merchants exchanged glances, whispering in their native tongues. The deal was never supposed to go through. It was meant to humiliate Earth, to trap them in an unwinnable situation. But now humanity had agreed. The trade is finalized. The deal was sealed within minutes. Documents were signed. Resources were transferred. The ships were handed over. By the time the Galactic Trade Union realized what had happened, humanity already owned the fleet. And then, without another word, Ambassador Carter stood up, shook hands, and left. His final words echoed in the hall. Thank you for your generosity. The alien laughter. The moment Carter was gone, the alien merchants erupted into laughter. Fools, Vector sneered. They don't even realize they've bought their own graves. Another merchant wiped tears from his eyes. What can they possibly do with those rust buckets? They have no weapons, no shields, no technology. The entire trade hall roared with amusement, convinced that humanity had doomed itself. Their first and last mistake. The truth on Earth. Back on Earth, the first of the junk ships arrived in orbit. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity had never needed their help. They didn't need perfect ships. They needed something to start with. And now, they had it. As engineers, scientists, and military strategists examined the ships, one thing was clear. These weren't worthless scrap. These were blueprints. Old technology meant one thing. It could be rebuilt, improved, and upgraded. Humanity had no intention of using them as they were. They were about to make them better. And when they were done, the galaxy would never laugh at Earth again. The engineers who changed everything. The Galactic Trade Union laughed as they watched Earth take ownership of their so-called warships. Rust-covered, barely functional, obsolete beyond measure. To the aliens, this was a joke, one that would end with humanity's humiliation and defeat. But what they didn't know was that humanity had never needed perfection. They just needed a starting point. And now, they had exactly that. The arrival of the junk fleet. The first of the scrap warships entered Earth's orbit, drifting slowly like forgotten relics of a long-dead war. Massive cargo freighters hauled them toward the largest orbital dock, the Armstrong Shipyard, a sprawling industrial facility floating above Earth. Engineers, technicians, and military strategists stood ready, watching as the junk arrived. Among them was Dr. Elias Grant, one of Earth's greatest minds in ship engineering. He took one look at the rusting metal hulls and smirked. "This isn't junk," he said. "This is potential. Breaking down the scrap." The moment the ships were docked, Earth's best engineers got to work. What the aliens had called useless was stripped down, examined, and analyzed. They found old but reliable reactor cores that could be supercharged, a hull structure resistant to most known energy weapons, just needed reinforcements. Outdated alien propulsion systems that, with modifications, could be faster than anything in the galaxy. Instead of seeing a broken fleet, humanity saw a chance to evolve. Instead of repairing, they would rebuild. Instead of fixing, they would reinvent. The Ghost Division is born. The project was classified under one name: Ghost Division. Only the best minds on Earth were allowed to know the truth. Engineers worked around the clock, stripping the ships of their outdated systems and replacing them with human innovations. Human-made, AI-assisted combat systems, capable of adapting in real time. Enhanced plasma cannons, 3 times the power of any known alien weapon. Reinforced titanium carbon hulls, stronger, lighter, and resistant to EMP attacks. Experimental warp engines, capable of jumps further and faster than anything the aliens had. The first ship to be completed was no longer a relic of the past. It was something new, something unstoppable, and it was ready for war. The Galactic Trade Union's suspicion. Meanwhile, on Varric 7, the Galactic Trade Union began to hear whispers. A Selvar intelligence officer, Commander Rithkal, stood before the trade union's overseers, his red eyes narrowed. "There are rumors," he said. "Earth is not just repairing the ships. They are doing something else." Vector, the alien merchant who had led the deal, waved a dismissive hand. "Let them tinker with the rust," he sneered. "They'll be lucky if those ships don't fall apart the first time they try to fly them." But Rithkal didn't smile. He had studied humanity's history, and one thing was clear: humans had a habit of turning weaknesses into strengths. He frowned. "We should keep watching them. Because if the rumors were true, then the trade union had just made the biggest mistake in galactic history." The first test flight. Back at Earth's shipyard, the first modified warship was ready. The Iron Revenant, no longer a piece of floating junk, but a machine of war. Inside the command deck, Captain Lina Hart ran final diagnostics. All systems online. AI targeting active. Shields at full power. The ship hummed with energy, a fusion of alien design and human innovation. "Time for the real test," she said. The engines roared to life. And in an instant, the Iron Revenant vanished from orbit. The Galactic Trade Union thought humanity was playing with scrap. What they didn't realize was, Earth had just created the deadliest fleet in the galaxy. To be continued in Part 3. The first test and the first kill. The Iron Revenant was no longer scrap. It was a monster. What once was a rusting, powerless wreck had become something far deadlier, a fusion of human ingenuity and alien mistakes. Faster, stronger, more advanced than anything the galaxy had ever seen. And tonight, it would take its first victim, a perfect target. Far beyond Earth's borders, at the edge of the Proxima Expanse, A small human outpost floated in deep space, a mining station, lightly armed, a tempting target for raiders. The Scrapheap pirates had been terrorizing frontier settlements for years. Ruthless, unchallenged, untouchable, until now. The pirate ambush. Aboard the pirate flagship, Bloodfang, Captain Orvax sneered as he watched the human station on his view screen. Pathetic, he growled. His second in command, a slimy, four-eyed alien, chuckled. Humans are weak. They always think someone will save them. Orvax bared his jagged teeth. Not tonight. With a wave of his hand, he gave the order. All ships, attack. Engines roared. Weapons powered up. The pirate fleet surged forward. And then, they saw it. A single warship hovering between them and the human outpost. A warship that shouldn't exist. The Iron Revenant makes its move. Inside the Iron Revenant, Captain Lena Hart watched the enemy fleet approach. Her crew sat silent, waiting for orders. The pirates thought they were facing an old, useless relic. They had no idea what was about to happen. Lena smirked. Let's show them what humans do with scrap. The ship came to life. The pirates' first mistake. On the Bloodfang, Captain Orvax squinted at his scanners. Something wasn't right. That ship, it's reading like an old Union model, but then the Revenant moved. Not like an old warship, not like a standard battlecruiser, but like a predator. 1 second, it was standing still. The next, it vanished, reappeared behind them. What? Orvax barely had time to speak before the first blast hit. A single plasma lance, aimed with precision, cutting straight through the pirate vessel Blackthorn like it was made of paper. A warship that should have taken dozens of hits to destroy. Gone in one. The pirate fleet froze. Their laughter died. The weak human scrap ship had just killed one of them in seconds. And now it was coming for the rest. A nightmare in the dark. Panic spread through the pirate fleet. What the hell was that? Orvax roared. No one had an answer. The Revenant's engines flared, and it moved again, faster than any ship had a right to move. It didn't just fire weapons. It hunted. One by one, the pirate warships fell. Not to brute force, not to overwhelming firepower, but to calculated, precise strikes. Every shot crippled an enemy. Every maneuver outclassed them. Every moment brought more fear, and in less than 10 minutes, half of the pirate fleet was gone. Destroyed, disabled, scattered, and the Iron Revenant had not taken a single hit. The final warning. Orvax's claws shook as he turned to his crew. Returi-80, he roared. Now, engines burned hot as the pirates tried to flee. But before they could, a transmission cut through their channels. A single message from the Iron Revenant. Calm, cold, human. Run, and tell the galaxy what you saw tonight. Orvax's stomach twisted. This wasn't just a fight. This was a message, and humanity had just delivered it. Loud and clear, the galaxy begins to listen. The pirate survivors spread the story across the outer rim. They spoke of a human warship that moved like a ghost. A ship that turned alien technology into something unstoppable. A ship that shouldn't exist, but did. The Galactic Trade Union heard the whispers. And for the first time, they began to feel afraid. Because they had given humanity that ship. They had handed them the very weapons they would use to rise. And now, it was too late to stop them. To be continued in Part 4. Humanity's Rise. A secret no more. The Scrapheap pirates thought they were invincible. They thought humanity was weak. That mistake had cost them everything. Now, across the outer rim, whispers spread like wildfire. A human warship, built from scrap, had annihilated an entire fleet. A ship that shouldn't exist. A ship that moved like a ghost and struck like a god. And the ones who had given humanity this power. The Galactic Trade Union. The trade union begins to worry. Inside the Grand Trade Hall on Varric 7, the most powerful alien merchants gathered. The laughter from their great deal with Earth was gone. Overseer Vector, who had led the deal with humanity, sat stiff in his chair, his reptilian fingers tapping against the armrest. Across from him, Commander Rithkal, Excelvor intelligence officer, placed a datapad on the table. The other alien leaders leaned forward. The screen flickered to life. Footage from the Krevak survivors. They watched as a single human warship, built from the very junk they had sold, destroyed an entire pirate fleet, took no damage, moved like no other ship in existence. Vector's jaw tightened. This is impossible. Rithkel's voice was cold. You made a mistake, Overseer. Silence. Then, you handed humanity the keys to war. The hunt for the truth. The trade union needed answers. How had humans turned worthless ships into something unstoppable? How much of their fleet had already been modified? Were they hiding more? A decision was made. A spy fleet was dispatched to observe Earth. If humanity was building more of these ships, the Union needed to know. Before it was too late. Earth's defense secret is exposed. Back on Earth, the transformation was accelerating. More of the junk ships were being reforged into something deadlier. The Ghost Division was no longer a secret. Engineers worked around the clock, tearing apart old alien technology and replacing it with human advancements. Among them was Dr. Elias Grant, the lead scientist behind the project. He stood on the observation deck of Armstrong Shipyard, watching as another modified warship, the Black Titan, powered up for its first test. Beside him, Captain Lena Hart, commander of the Iron Revenant, crossed her arms. How long before the aliens realize what we've done? She asked. Dr. Grant smirked. They already know. Lena arched an eyebrow. And what happens when they come for us? Grant's smirk widened. Then we show them what humans do best. The spy fleet arrives. On the outer edges of the Sol system, the trade union spy fleet slipped into position, hiding in the shadows of Saturn's moons. They activated long-range scanners, searching for signs of human activity. They expected to find primitive shipyards, struggling engineers, a desperate race grasping for survival. What they found instead terrified them. The factory of war. Their sensors lit up with activity. Dozens of warships under construction. Shipyards filled with alien wreckage, repurposed into next-generation battlecruisers. Weapons that surpassed anything the trade union had ever created. And then, the spy fleet's communications were jammed. The shadows of space shifted. Something was watching them. The trap is sprung. Inside the lead, Selvar spy vessel, Commander Rithkal's claws twitched as warning lights flashed across his control panel. Something's wrong, one of his officers said. We're being. A voice cut through their comms. Human. Calm. Cold. You shouldn't be here. Rithkel's blood ran cold. The Iron Revenant uncloaked before them. And behind it, the Black Titan. And two more modified human warships, all aimed directly at them. The first strike against the trade union, before the Selvar spy fleet could react. The human ships fired, not with outdated, salvaged weapons, but with weapons the galaxy had never seen before. Plasma lances that burned through shields in seconds, warp-jumping torpedoes that struck before the enemy could react. Adaptive AI targeting systems that never missed. In the span of 30 seconds, half the Excelvor fleet was gone. The spy fleet retreats. Rithkel's ship barely survived the onslaught. Burning, limping through space, his fleet jumped to hyperspace, fleeing back to the trade union. But the damage was done. They had seen what Earth had become. They had witnessed the impossible. And worst of all, they knew. The war had already begun. The trade union faces the truth. Back on Varric 7, the trade union's leaders listened to Rithkel's report. They had believed humanity was a joke. Now, They knew better. Now, they were afraid. The question was, what would they do next? The invasion that changed the galaxy. The Galactic Trade Union had always controlled the balance of power. They made the rules. They decided who thrived and who fell. And when a new species became too ambitious, they made sure that species was crushed before it could rise. Now, for the first time, they were afraid. Because humanity was not just rising. They were already here. And the trade union had handed them the weapons to do it. The Emergency Council meeting. Inside the Grand Trade Hall of Varric 7, the most powerful leaders of the union gathered in silence. A massive holographic projection hovered above them. Footage from the failed spy mission. They watched as human warships erased half a fleet in seconds. Outdated junk ships moved faster and hit harder than any known vessel. Eye-controlled targeting systems adapted in real time, making human weapons impossible to counter. Vector, the alien merchant lord who had brokered the deal with Earth, sat in stunned silence. They shouldn't be able to do this. Commander Rithkel, the surviving Selvar intelligence officer, stared at the hologram, his voice low and grim. They are not just repairing our old ships. He turned toward the council, his red eyes narrowing. They are building something new. A silence filled the chamber. Then, panic. The leaders began shouting over one another, arguing, accusing, demanding solutions. Humanity is a threat. We should have destroyed them when we had the chance. We must act before they grow even stronger. But then, a single voice cut through the noise. We won't need to. Everyone turned to the speaker. A tall, armored alien warlord with glowing yellow eyes. His name was High Commander Xalvorin, and he was the leader of the Velthar Dominion, the trade union's strongest military ally. The humans have built weapons, Xalvorin said, his voice cold. But they are still weak. They are still young. They have never faced a true war. He leaned forward. I will teach them. The invasion of Earth begins. The Velthar Dominion did not send diplomats. They did not issue warnings. They did not negotiate. They simply attacked. A massive fleet, larger than anything Earth had ever seen, dropped out of hyperspace. 500 warships, thousands of fighters, planetary bombardment-class cruisers. The first wave of the invasion headed straight for Luna Base, Earth's primary lunar defense station. Their mission? Wipe it from existence. The Velthar expected no resistance. They thought Earth's defenses would crumble in hours. They were wrong, because humanity had been waiting for this moment. The trap is set. Inside Luna Base, Captain Lena Hart watched the Velthar fleet approach. Her expression was calm, steady. Her crew, however, was tense. One of her officers swallowed hard. Ma'am, that's the largest fleet we've ever seen. Lena smirked. Good. She turned to her second in command. Is the system online? A nod. Then let's welcome our guests. Lena pressed a single button, and the space around the Velthar fleet changed. The unleashing of Earth's new weapon. For years, humanity had been studying alien technology, not just improving it, but mastering it. What the Velthar didn't know was that Luna Base was not just a defensive station. It was a testing ground for humanity's most dangerous weapon. A weapon never seen before in the galaxy. The Void Disruptor. A pulse of energy rippled across space, silent, invisible, unavoidable. Velthar warships immediately suffered critical failures. Engines failed. Shields collapsed. Weapons went offline. The Velthar commander, aboard his flagship, roared in rage. What is happening? And then, the Ghost Division arrived. The end of the Velthar fleet. From behind the crippled Velthar fleet, human warships decloaked. The Iron Revenant led the charge. Behind it, the Black Titan, the Void Stalker, the Solar Fang, and 30 more human-built warships, each one created from the scrap the trade union had once mocked. Now, those same warships were ripping through the Velfar invasion force. The Velfar tried to fight back, but their weapons wouldn't fire. They tried to run, but their engines wouldn't start. They tried to call for help, but the humans had jammed their communications. And in less than 30 minutes, the largest invasion force ever sent to Earth was gone. A message to the galaxy. The battle was over. But Earth had one last move to make. Inside the command deck of the Iron Revenant, Captain Lena Hart activated a sector-wide transmission. Her message was broadcast to every major galactic power. Her voice was calm, but final. Earth is no longer your marketplace. Earth is no longer a weak colony. She leaned forward. Earth is your equal. A final warning. A final declaration. A statement that changed the galaxy forever. The trade union's realization. On Varric 7, the Galactic Trade Union's leaders watched the broadcast in stunned silence. Their great invasion had ended in total failure. Their strongest ally had been crushed. And the humans, they had barely taken a hit. Vector's claws trembled as he looked at his fellow leaders. His voice was barely above a whisper. We have created our own destruction, because the galaxy had always thought humanity was weak. Now, they knew the truth. Humanity was just getting started. The war machine unleashed. The galaxy had always underestimated humanity. They were supposed to be primitive, weak, unimportant. Yet, in one decisive battle, Earth had crushed one of the most feared armadas in history. And now, the galaxy was afraid. Because for the first time, they saw the truth. Humanity was not just fighting back. They were winning. The aftermath of the invasion. The Velfar fleet, once a symbol of galactic dominance, was now wreckage floating in space. Of the 500 ships that arrived at Earth, fewer than a dozen had escaped. The survivors, crippled and broken, limped back to their empire. High Commander Ghazal Vorin, the warlord who had led the attack, stood aboard his ruined flagship, staring at the debris field. His empire's greatest fleet, gone. Destroyed by a species that should have been easy prey. His mind raced. How? How had humans, a species who had only recently entered the galactic stage, managed to obliterate one of the most powerful navies in the universe? And then, the realization struck him like a hammer. The Galactic Trade Union had made a catastrophic mistake. They had given humanity the tools of war, and humanity had turned those tools into something unstoppable. The trade union's desperate plan. On Varric 7, panic spread through the Galactic Trade Union's ruling council. They had believed humanity would collapse under the weight of its own ambition. Instead, humanity had risen faster than any species in history. Their technology was no longer outdated. Their fleets were no longer weak. And now, they had defeated a force that was supposed to wipe them from existence. The trade union's highest leader, Overseer Vector, slammed his claws onto the negotiation table. "This cannot be allowed to continue," he hissed. A silence fell over the room. Then, a single voice spoke. "Then we must do what we have always done." The others turned toward the speaker, Lord Maketh, the head of trade and war operations. He leaned forward, his many eyes gleaming. "We do not fight our own battles." He gestured toward a holographic display, showing a terrifying fleet twice the size of the Velfar Armada. "We let the War Masters handle this." The room fell silent, because even among the trade union's allies, there was one faction that no one dared cross. The Drakari war clans, a species that had never known defeat, a species that had only one rule: victory at any cost. And now, their target was Earth. Earth's response: prepare for total war. Inside the Armstrong shipyard, humanity's military leaders gathered. They had intercepted the trade union's communications. They knew what was coming. Captain Lena Hart, commander of the Iron Revenant, stood before the council. "We don't have time to celebrate," she said, voice firm. Dr. Elias Grant, The head engineer behind humanity's new fleet, nodded. "The trade union knows they can't stop us themselves," he said. "They're calling for the Drakari war clans." A murmur swept through the room. The Drakari, the galaxy's most ruthless, battle-hardened conquerors. A species that didn't just fight wars. They lived for them. Lena's fists clenched. "Then we do what we always do." She turned to Dr. Grant. "How fast can we finish the new fleet?" The scientist smirked. "It's already done. The new fleet of Earth." The Galactic Trade Union had believed humanity was modifying old technology. They were wrong. Earth had moved beyond salvaging alien designs. They had created something entirely new. Now, in the depths of space, a fleet unlike any the galaxy had ever seen waited for war. The Titan-class warships, self-repairing armor plating, quantum shielding, able to adapt to enemy weapons in real time. Experimental dark matter cannons, capable of tearing through energy fields. AI-assisted combat algorithms, learning and evolving with every battle. And the crown jewel of the fleet, a single warship larger than any vessel Earth had ever built. Codename, Ragnarok, the first super dreadnought in human history, armed with a weapon so powerful it had never been tested in battle. The Galactic Annihilator Cannon, a weapon capable of erasing entire fleets in a single blast. Humanity was no longer reacting to war. They were preparing to end it. The Drakari arrive. The Drakari war clans wasted no time. Within days, their fleet appeared in the Sol system, a wall of warships, more than 1,000 strong. Their flagship, the Blood Reckoning, led the charge. Inside, War Master Korak, leader of the Drakari, stood on the command deck. His burning yellow eyes scanned the display. "Earth thinks itself mighty," he growled. "They are children playing at war." A low, rumbling laugh spread across the bridge. "They will learn," Korak said. He raised his arm. "Begin the assault." The Drakari launched their attack. And for the first time in history, they would know fear. The trap is set. The Drakari believed they were invading the helpless world. They believed humanity was outnumbered, outgunned, and outmatched. They were wrong. As the Drakari fleet surged forward, they triggered the largest defensive ambush in galactic history. The Titan-class warships decloaked. The Ragnarok powered up its main cannon. And then, the end began. The galaxy will never underestimate humanity again. The Drakari war clans had never lost a war. For centuries, they had marched across the stars, burning. The trap is sprung. Across the battlefield, space rippled, and suddenly, human warships appeared from nowhere. Massive, Titan-class warships, each one larger than anything the Drakari had ever seen. And at the center, the Ragnarok, the first super dreadnought in human history, a ship designed for one purpose only, ending wars before they began. And today, it would do exactly that. War Master Korak's grin vanished. "The war machine awakens. Fire EV or a thing." Korak roared. The Drakari unleashed hell. Thousands of plasma cannons, railguns, and torpedoes lit up the void. But human ships moved differently. They weren't just faster. They weren't just stronger. They adapted. AI-assisted battle systems predicted every Drakari shot before it was fired. Quantum shielding absorbed their most powerful weapons. And then, the Ragnarok spoke. A deep, thunderous energy hummed through space. Power gathered at the ship's core. And then, with a blinding flash, the Galactic Annihilator Cannon fired its first shot. A beam of pure devastation tore across the battlefield. And in a single instant, half the Drakari fleet was erased. The fall of the Drakari war clans. Panic spread through the Drakari ranks. They had fought 1,000 wars, but they had never fought humans. One by one, their ships fell. One by one, their warriors realized the truth. They had not come to conquer Earth. They had walked into their own destruction. The last stand of War Master Korak, Aboard the Blood Reckoning, Korak's vision blurred with rage. How? How had this happened? How had humanity, a species the galaxy had dismissed as weak, risen to become gods of war? His war fleet was gone. His empire's greatest warriors were dead, and he had only one choice left. With a snarl, he opened a direct channel to the Ragnarok. Captain Lena Hart appeared on his view screen. She stood tall, unshaken. Korak clenched his fists. "You," he hissed. "You think this is over?" Lena tilted her head. "It's already over." Korak roared, slamming his fist against his control panel. And then, the Blood Reckoning exploded. The message that changed the galaxy. The war was won. But the real battle was about to begin. Across the galaxy, news of the battle spread. The greatest warlords in the universe had challenged Earth, and Earth had crushed them. The Galactic Trade Union watched in horror. They had thought they could control humanity. They had thought they could manipulate them, weaken them, break them. Instead, they had forged the deadliest war machine in the galaxy. And now, that war machine was looking directly at them. The last warning. A final transmission was sent from Earth to every major galactic power. Captain Lena Hart stood before the camera. Her voice was calm, cold. "This war is over." Her eyes darkened. "But let me be clear, if any of you come for Earth again, you will not be given mercy." She leaned forward. "You will be erased." The message cut out. And across the galaxy, the rulers of every major empire felt fear for the first time. Because now, they understood. The era of Earth being a forgotten, weak species was over. Humanity was here, and they were never going to kneel again. The end.